maybe, here's hoping, that this works with a less delay. I think I was trying to go for 60 frames per second, which is a little ambitious. I also toned down a little bit the room cam, and so we'll see if this improves the quality at all. At the very least, I can watch it later to see if it mangles it. All right, back to my dragons. Alright, I'm not drawing any of the dragons. Oh, and I'm also not going to do music right away. I'll try it in a little bit after I feel like the stream is calmed down. Alas, I am not streaming simultaneously to Twitch anymore. Not that I've ever cultivated anything on Twitch. I just wanted to see if it would work and how it would work later, since Twitch is primarily a streaming platform. And I haven't seen a lot of artists go on Twitch ever to do stuff. So I thought, maybe I'll be one of the few. Still haven't ruled it out. Alright. What I'll do is I'll draw, a little bit on a design for like this dragon here. I'll block it out a little bit more. And then I'll go and turn down the opacity. And kind of go for a thinner, darker pencil and see if I can kind of improve my design. Just keeps getting, more and more refined before I actually ink the thing. And I like these kind of spikes that stick off the back of excuse me, the head of some dragons, especially the ones that I like to draw. Alright, like I was saying before, because this is the second time I've tried this stream, over here on the right you'll notice big folders full of stuff. So if I zoom way out, and so Clip Studio Paint, which used to be Manga Studio, has this kind of wonderful worldview of helping people create comics and do that kind of sequential art look to things. Whereas like Photoshop is decent for painting, it is still not like great for doing comics. A comic needs to have these panels, and each panel you need to be able to draw in without like encroaching on the rest of the artwork. So if I choose one with this little special tool over here, this is, sorry about that, this is kind of a silhouette panel, a bunch of dragons falling from the sky and people racing around, and just kind of a generally energetic frame. Inside of this folder on this right hand side, you'll see that I'm able to create another new layer, perhaps in here, and it's all inside of a folder in here. If I choose an outlandish color, we'll be able to see this. And I start drawing. As soon as I get to the outside of that frame, see how it clips it off? So it allows you to just kind of like hang out in the comic worldview without, encroaching on your other panels. And they're pretty easy to create. There's like this little tool over here that looks like a split frame, and it says create frame, and I can choose to make the frame a different color. Like right now I'll make it a bright red border because I don't want to leave this up for later. This is just for demonstration's sake. Normally I do this cool 8 pixel border on the thing. Well, I'm going to pump it up just so we can see what's going on to 138. And if I draw a square here, a rectangle, it'll create a whole new, very obnoxious frame for me. And over on the side, if I create a new layer and draw in there, it's much the same as we saw before. Just allows me to kind of work with some freedom. The beautiful thing is I can go ahead and resize this thing, and it just clips off what's in the inside. So here's another neato thing. If I create another frame next to it, See if I can get this to do it. Learning how to do. See, now this one's got a black frame. It's very ugly, but you'll you'll get the idea here. So if I grab onto this edge to resize this one that is next to this black one that is next to the red one, if I move it, see how it also keeps the same proportion of the red one that was next to it? Not proportion, but distance from. So I'm going to go ahead and delete both of these because it's a little bit of an eyesore, and kind of try that again with existing frames that I already have. There's a little special tool that you use that actually selects specific objects by clicking on them rather than having to go through and actually find it on the side of here. So I just go ahead and click on this one frame with all the dragons, the energetic silhouettes going on, and if I pull and resize this, it maintains the size of the one next to it. And similarly, every one of these is going to operate on the one that's next to it. So I just find that incredibly useful. I don't want to, redo every panel, but if I resize the height of this one, it changes the height on the one next to it. It brings the others that were above it down. See, try that again. Maybe even with this one. Drag it down. Everything changes. So it's extremely flexible. And you can totally defy that. If I want to work on this one separately from all the rest of them, I could do that so that it wouldn't influence all the ones around it. I just for right now like that. I found a really weird little thing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Around this one here, I have chosen a certain gap in between these frames that I like size-wise. But you can actually tap on these little yellow handles next to them, and it just it gets rid of that space, which I find intriguing because, well, I created this space to begin with, but what if I, storytelling-wise, wanted, no space in between these two? I could just tighten it up like that. That's interesting. I might have to keep that in mind for some other time, but this will throw it, if I do the same thing on the sides of it, it'll throw it way out to the sides of the page. Since these are next to each other, I wonder if I just resize one. Okay, so it doesn't influence this one. So if I go ahead and choose this, if I change the size of it, now will it go ahead and change its neighbor? Kinda. I don't know. I think it breaks it when you use those little margin erasing yellow arrows. Let me try it up here. I kind of got rid of that margin. Now if I resize it, I don't know, it does resize the one next to it. So I'm not entirely sure the function of that little yellow triangle. There's a little blue thing that hangs off of each one of these when I select the actual frame with that tool up here. This little blue guy allows you to rotate it. So, sometimes you want to make a haphazard look to a page. Sometimes you want to, jumble the cards, if you will, jumble all of these all over the place. And then, it's interesting. It would make for a pretty energetic page, since this is going to be like the big battle page with, Princess, Selfless, and Strongest in here amongst all their different host of warriors fighting dragons. It could look kind of, crazy to have them all over the place jogging back and forth. I kind of like the idea, actually, now that I look at it. I'll have to keep it in mind, but the beautiful thing is I could switch them all back. I could just try the look of that. I don't have to actually commit. I'm like, oh boy, I'm just going to try for a time. It actually takes whatever's inside the frame and turns it as well. So it kind of maintains the same aspect ratio, or identical aspect ratio, just changes whatever's inside to rotate with whatever custom degrees you turn it to. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go back to working on my dragon. Let's close up all of these folders over on the right just so that it looks a little neater. And I click on my uppermost top. And I'm going to zoom back in. This will be so much easier with one of those remotes. I will someday test one of those out. Or if Wacom ever decided to send me one, I would totally review that, obviously. Uh, oh, Dursey. Okay, Dursey's visiting. It would be cool if some panels were bleeding into each other, like debris and stuff. Well, yeah, okay, so it's funny you say that. I haven't. If I crank up the opacity on this little battle scene here, you'll notice that if I zoom in, there is this portion of her leg and foot that is kind of going over on these panels. And I was going to do like debris and whatnot, but I'd already started that idea since this whole page is going to have kind of that theme of crazy combat. It's just a mess of melee and arrows. Like this one whole panel is arrows and gliders dropping bombs and all kinds of stuff. I did want to overlap, which I think, so that's cool. You're instead of doing music, you should totally do comics now. You're like an artiste. Yeah, with them tilted. Yeah, I mean it could be cool. I don't know. I don't know. There was another page I thought that I was doing. Okay, like this one here. One of the characters is her head is pretty large because she's doing some expository explaining of things, and I have her encroaching over her hair, her mask, her weird mask thing, over the panels too. So I like the idea of kind of breaking out of those traditional. Here's another one. This one's really still in the blue line phase, but there's this dragon with First Mother sitting on the top of it, and you'll see that like these purple. This is a group of children in the front, kind of encroaching over the top of another panel. I just really like that kind of feel. So good, yeah, a professional artiste. Dursey, you will always be an artiste, regardless of whether or not you are professional. Zoom back in. I'm give it a couple more minutes and I'll try and pop music back over the top of this stream to see if that slows it down. Dursey, Tony was in here earlier and checking out stream delay for me, dropped frames, that camera there. Is it look choppy? Is my drawing look choppy? I mean, if you're here, you could be super useful. And tell me if you, because you know video, you know audio stuff. Since I'm kind of trying out some new settings and an entirely new bit of software, it'd be nice to know if it's successful, if any of the optimizations worked. Because at first I was trying to do 60 frames per second streaming, and with some of the other settings that might have been ambitious. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to scribble over the top of this whole dragon, and I'm going to turn it transparent again and try and refine it even down a little bit more until I feel the level of detail is kind of commensurate with the excitement. Yeah, it looks awesome. What? Oh, thanks, Tony and Dursey. So it's working better. Okay, well, phenomenal. Gonna try and add music. Watch this. I killed Chrome out of the background because Chrome is notoriously, I don't know, kind of heavy on my computer. I'll open up 2 windows and it'll all of a sudden spawn like 20 processes, which is super frustrating. So let me go over here and let me look for my history in YouTube. Not gonna lie, I have no idea how to do that. I will just search it up again. Royalty free streaming music. But you have to say royalty free streaming music for YouTube, otherwise it's only royalty free for Twitch. For some reason copyright still pops up. 60 FPS is great for gaming, no need for video. Hey, I'm glad you think so, because I can't bring on the tunes. Let's see. Unless, of course, you guys have some... Oh, shoot, now I lost where I was before. This may totally be terrible. Let's see. So far, I had some really cool streaming tunes before. I don't know, the other day I played, when I was on stream, I played Chopin piano music, and I thought that that was like a really good choice because it's old. There's no way it's copyrighted. That's not true. I actually got a little copyright notice on the video. So pretty brilliant. Alright. This level of music. Is this too quiet? I will let it spin for a second so that the chat can catch up. That's the other thing. I turned down the delay, or rather I turned up the delay on chat slightly, so that hopefully I wasn't overwhelming the stream. I think it's whenever I draw, seriously, almost every time I draw dragons, I'm reminded that how I draw them and how many creators have drawn dragons really doesn't work. They're just these kind of fat-bodied lizards. It's too low. All right, I'm bringing it up, and we'll see if. Whoa. Let that spin for a second. Just barely, though. I don't have this granular control. I wish there was some way to get that through Streamlabs, the actual piece of software I'm using. So much to learn. Now let's see if can you even hear my voice over it. I'm acting like you guys don't have anything better to do, helping me figure out my stream. I like the idea, though, of a Western dragon. I saw a movie, I don't remember when I was a kid. I mean, Tony, you're as aged as I am. Maybe you remember, there was a dragon movie when we were kids that talked about how a fat dragon like this might be able to fly. Because its wings, there's no way its wings could support its massive weight. But what would happen is they would eat like vegetation and all kinds of stuff, because they were actually omnivores. They could eat both vegetation and meat. And they would build up gases inside of them. And as the gases kind of expanded, they would create like a buoyancy, and they would lift off of the ground, and it would help them fly with their overly puny wings. I love that idea, and the reason they would expand on it, the reason they would breathe fire, is because the best way to get back down would be to expel massive gouts of gas that would be ignited by what? I have no idea what it'd be ignited by, but it's ignited by something. So it was kind of a retcon of, hey, dragons fly and they breathe fire. And so, yeah, there was a movie, like it was a kid's movie when I was young. I hate the way I did that tail, so I'm going to go ahead and back way out. Somewhere between this and the really low one would be best, but if you can't get it any granular, then you can't. Yep. I'm afraid not. One more try. What if I full screen this thing and I can really get in there? Maybe that would help. But I suppose even a little tiny decorative bit of music is in the background is better than listening to me breathe without it and drink coffee. Hold on a sec. This is not an ASMR video. At any rate, that's what, that's that kind of quasi-science helps me kind of rationalize when I look at the way I draw dragons with these really spindler. Oh, wow. Somehow you have like 6 deleted messages, Tony. I don't know what happened. It says that you're spamming it. Oh gosh, no. That's my moderator bot. Maybe thinks you're spamming, which I think is ridiculous. May have to fix that. So this is a great volume. If there was a way for me to preserve that for the next time, there's got to be a better way. So yeah, I'll add a little bit more detail to these flames here. I don't know why I draw flames so blocky, but I like the idea that the energy of the fire is kind of spiky and straight, as opposed to being overly flowy. Alright, so the shields that Selfless is using, I'm just gonna kind of draw in some of the chips and breaks along the sides so I don't forget it when I actually go to ink this thing. Sometimes this, I was really excited about the volume and I all caps nailed it. So that's why. Okay, that's why. So it's not like there was a frequency of message issues. You were doing the overexcited typing. That's amazing. Well, nice to know that my moderator bot doesn't like all capsing. I try not to look too much at other artists that I really, really like because I think it overly influences what I do, and it kind of takes away from my personality when I draw. But sometimes I like to look at I keep these comics, Mike Mignola's comics, next to me, and I love the way, you probably can't see this, but I love the way he does kind of really big panels, and there's so much silhouette work, and I try and keep that in mind when I look at it, and I see his lines are very thin and his blacks are very deep. Kind of reminds me of what I want to do. There's so many kids books that I wind up scribbling on and working on that I have to do, I don't know, like super high rendering of faces and eyelashes and all kinds of stuff. And I just kind of yearn for making stuff simpler, even if it's just like these kind of silhouette panels. Because some of them, like this, I mean, I am going to wind up doing a lot of detail on her face over here because I want her to be like, whoa, wait, why can't I move my hand? You know, you want to be able to look at that surprise look on her face and not miss it. But some of these super action shots, you don't need to see more than just like the determined slit of her eyes and the nose kind of landmark. Remember the scene from Akira where his motorbike explodes and I pause and sketch the fire and smoke because I love the way it looked. It's funny you say that. Tony and I are almost the same person. I loved, you know, where it was like tumbling out and stuff was moving across the entire screen. It was the first anime that I watched that actually wasn't super lazy. I know it's high sacrilege to say that anime is lazy, but you're right. In most cases, when you look at the scenes of explosions and things in Akira, it is masterful to look at how much stuff moves. They didn't get lazy at all, as is kind of like the case with a whole lot of anime. I have a friend that I've gone round and round and round with about this who loves the style and says that, you know, that's part of the culture and whatnot. I'm like, no, check it out. Studio Ghibli, I know, is not a good example of anime because Miyazaki at some point was quoted as saying that it wasn't actually anime. But to me, the things that move in that, if you look across the background and the detailed animations, I adore how much work he does and how much he has his studio do on that stuff as well. I want her hair to have like flyaways and crazy energetic mess coming off of it. So when I go ahead and turn this all black, I still want, maybe I'll have some highlight across the top here, but I want it to look really messy. But Akira was like, when I think of anime that I watched when I was a kid, I shouldn't have watched it when I was a kid, but that's one of them. I actually don't know where I would have seen that. Like, how was I watching that on TV? God, it really is going to bug me now. Was that a friend's house? I also watched a lot of Voltron. which was like anime poorly. See, there's Voltron back there. Do you see it? Do you see it? Right here. Kind of poorly dubbed. I love the way that was like. I used to love to watch kung fu movies that were poorly dubbed, but at least that was the art style and the poorly dubbed issues that I adored so much about. I don't know. I like to enjoy it, but I like to make fun of it at the same time. I've been wrestling with the idea of how in the world Selfless can hold this shield, and I've kind of set myself free from those expectations of trying to figure out exactly how she would do it, because this is a fantasy book. I hate her hand there, but I'll keep refining it. Hands are the biggest problem. Go to this other semi-transparent layer and lay down some marks so I'm not quite so irritated. What did I do? Oh, I somehow made my pencil white, which doesn't show up. I'm choosing certain characteristics to kind of blow up for the character design on these in here, and in most animes, don't they animate first and then record the voiceovers? I have no idea, Dursey. You may be right. I mean, all I know is their mouths move at crazy speeds, and I like to watch them with subtitles. I mean, sorry, with dubs, because I don't like subtitles. So when they're rapidly talking, sometimes it feels like they're just fitting in extra words, perhaps like their mouth has just been moving forever and they gotta kind of just keep talking to make that mouth movement work. So maybe you're onto something. I'm not that much of an anime fan to where I know that much about it. Do you watch anime, Dursey? Is that your thing? I didn't think that was your thing for some reason. You're a big Rick and Morty fan. I'm gonna have to confess that I watched about 5 episodes of Rick and Morty yesterday, and I laughed a few times. I'm still irritated by the art style, and but I thought that there was some extremely intelligent things. Oh man, her hand looks mannish. That's why it looks like garbage. Yeah, I think it does. I think that the lip syncing looks like garbage. In general, I like the style. Here's an interesting observation that I read about once, having to do with, let's zoom in here for a second, having to do with emojis, or emoticons. So when we type in the West here, when we type a smiley face, we do a colon and a parenthesis. If we type like an extremely happy face, we type this colon and then we do a capital D. So basically between this one and this one, the mouth just got huge. A concerned face has a slash. Very excited, cross-eyed. But if you look at Japanese emojis, I have an entire page of them somewhere. They don't focus on the mouth as much as we do. They focus on the eyes. And I have no good example right off the top of my head, but things like they'll do a pair of parentheses, and then they'll do this. This is kind of like their face, where we would do the sideways mouth, like not sure. They would kind of like focus on the eyes, like how much more the eyes are expressive. Another one is where they do this, where it's like a goggle-eyed look. It's interesting how they focus on the eyes. And so if you look at anime, it kind of illustrates, or kind of rather reinforces that notion. When they look at the face, the most expressive thing are these big old anime eyes, and they kind of downplay the way the mouth moves, and they downplay the way the nose looks. Anime's not your thing. You watch Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, and Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan, the manga, the book of it, is interesting. I've read a decent amount of the first one, and I've watched all the first Attack on Titan it's almost a little too crazy. Like nothing ever gets explained, and so I start having a little bit of incredulous feeling like, what is going on? There are too many mysteries. Somebody please explain something. And the answer of, hey, just keep watching, further seasons, you'll understand. It's just really not enough for me. I'd really like a little bit more cohesive story. Too many secrets. Just feels like they don't know where they're going. So that one bugged me. But Full Metal Alchemist, that's actually really good. There is a compilation of episodes supposedly of Full Metal Alchemist where they make the story a little bit more coherent. They leave out some parts of the story, and I guess it's better. So I don't know which one I wound up watching. Let's make some big, like, nasty gashes on this shield, like maybe she was fighting a dragon and it left some big dings. Big chips out of the side. Big chip off the corner. I think I'm about ready to start laying down actual inking on this. Because if I redraw and draw something enough times and I notice I'm not changing the look of it much, it's time to actually make it permanent. Kind of want to make the bottom of this dress ripped, because there's no way she's going to go through the battle wearing this long kind of smock thing without it getting just trashed. Dursey, when you streamed, gaming-wise, what did you use? Was it OBS? Have we talked about this already? I sure would like to know what my options are, because today has been a little bit frustrating. Kind of figuring out where I'm going wrong. Well, that was a crazy... Dursey, thank you for subscribing. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know that noise was that notification. Thanks for the support, though. But yeah, I know you had a Twitch presence at one time. I just didn't know if you used OBS, or if you used the Streamlabs thing that I'm using, or if it was just their kind of built-in that didn't look good. When I looked at it, they're kind of built-in. I don't know if it's an API or whatever. It was looking really jerky and. That hair alone there. I really wanted this tail to look more. Here's a pet peeve of mine. In art, see what this is? That pointy thing that comes off the side of this dragon's head is touching right on the curved edge of the tail. It's called a tangency. It makes me a little crazy. Unnecessarily draws your eye to that area. Right. I need to resist the temptation to zoom in so much. That's better. This character, strongest. I have this idea of her weapons being a lot different. Let's see. I'm getting a call from Reno. What do you want to bet? They're trying to sell me something. You're right, Tony. It's a tangent. It makes me crazy. Hello? Oh my gosh, Healthcare Savers. Healthcare Savers, thanks for calling. Yeah. See, design people. Tony's a design guy. He hates the tangents too. Oh. So anyway, I try and find them and eradicate them. Dursey says, I've messed with OBS and it seemed okay, but I'm planning on just recording and not streaming. Oh, yeah. Streamed with Elgato software. Oh, their hardware. I don't want their actual hardware, so yeah. Good call. Yeah. think that the music just got crazy quiet all of a sudden. I wonder if I have a picture. Okay, so this is a shot of Strongest here. I want these weapons to be, I don't know of any weapon that actually looks like this, but I love the idea of hanging, like a mace, hanging a bell off the end of a large kind of wooden stick and having a counterweight on the other side. And what could you do with that kind of weapon? Just kind of winging it around, bashing stuff. Do you hear that? It's an airplane. I really like the idea of this. I don't know. I think you'd have to be some kind of just insanely strong person to wield that. And so since her title and her name is Strongest, I'm going to go with something that I think would be impossible for someone else to wield if they weren't, wow, sorry about that, if they weren't really, really mighty. So I've been playing around with the idea of these bells. Just trying to think of what would be the most intimidating weapon to go up against somebody. Like, swords are pretty intimidating, and missile weapons, that kind of sucks. They're really far away and they're going to be shooting me from a distance. But what if somebody came charging up at me with a weapon that probably weighs as much as I do, and every time they whack somebody with it there's a resounding gonging noise? If there's an actual weapon out there that looks like this, the bell weapon, I'm glad it seems original. This is another one of those things that I wish Garrett would make me in a game. I want the character who wields two shields. I want to play that character. And then I want the character that has the big beat sticks, and I want to play that character. It reminds me of a giant candle extinguisher. Oh yeah, the snuffer. That's true, which has a connotation all its own. Snuffer, snuffing the lights out. Just the sound alone. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Okay, so, and these big round counterweights on the end make them kind of look like they're lead balls, with the imperfections of a lead ball. And I suppose the big knobby bits on these bells isn't really, I think it's more decoration than anything else. I think the bell would be enough to do the damage. I don't know if I told you, I think Dursey, that this is my month to do no gaming, in bed before. I made up all these stupid rules for myself that I'm so regretting. I'm not going to game at all, except for every once in a while I play Pokemon Go with my youngest. I'm going to be up before 6 to do a reasonable workout, and in bed before 10:30. And I'm going to spend every moment that I would have been gaming before on just kicking out at least this issue 0 of my comic. And we're going to see what it's like at the end of the month. Currently, I hate it. Now, I don't hate working on the comic. I don't hate the idea of being productive. It's just such a departure from my life. I miss, gaming and goofing off. And, I am typically up till like 2 in the morning. Or maybe midnight. I just really flourish. When I get up as early as I do right now to work out, whew, Dursey, I'm aware because I try to get on Discord and you shame me. I do not shame you. If you feel shame, you bring that on yourself. No, I do miss that. I do miss the time goofing off and gaming. Man. I just watch, every once in a while I watch in a forlorn manner as my sons, or sometimes when my daughter comes home, they're over there doing everything I want to be doing. Alright. I have these, I don't know what these are. They're like collars that I'm designing on my characters. They're not really scarves, but they wind up looking like that. I just like the idea of a little bit different clothing. than your typical fantasy. So these are more like a quilted gambeson look. That, like, if you wore this under armor, it would protect you from the armor, but they just kind of wear it as a matter of course. I'm not doing a lot of the armored look for these characters. I feel like I could. I feel like everything I've ever drawn has prepared me for this moment. No, I really like armor and stuff. I wanted to break out from it briefly. I just really am screwing up that arm very badly. Alright. This is the kind of wing that comes out from underneath your arm. This will be the front of your shoulder right here. That means this will be kind of a bicep, but you gotta look under her arm so you wouldn't see that delineation there. You see kind of a tricep and then an elbow. That's a little better. Without actually referencing a piece of art. Go to work. Go to work on your own art, Dursey. Are you making videos? Thanks, friend. I want these big gauntlets, these big meaty gauntlets for her to be wearing to kind of make her hands huger than huge. You know, the kind of the silhouette that she has is this sort of a square head, sort of big hands. Yeah. See if I can keep from bashing my tablet against the wall. You know what, I've been drawing for like 20 minutes and haven't saved. I've got a convention coming up next month. No, April. Yeah. And I'm actually a little bit nervous. I'm working on 2 pieces of art that are going to be sold at the convention. And since Brad is not here, I'm going to go ahead and preview them because there's not that many viewers that are going to stop by and check this out. So let me go find this. I've got 2 pieces. Ooh, I can actually look on here. Clip Studio Paint has a whole browser for things you've worked on recently that will show you, you know, you'll be able to look through. So this is the kind of the color pass of a big old dragon that sort of reminds me of one of the big dragons, the biggest dragon in my comic. The main difference is this one is kind of sort of made halfway out of crystalline structure as well as regular stone. So I want it to be kind of like rearing up and just like all this stuff falling down. So at this point I'm doing all the really rich color, and then I'll go in and try and add lots of atmospheric stuff that won't make it look quite so I don't know, cartoony at this point. So basically all the structure of each one of these little things, this thing is, you know, 18 inches wide, so it's not enormous, but it'll print out pretty big. So this is, I believe, the one that the con exclusive artwork is, and then there's a different one that I am kind of getting into. I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted to do something with an adventuring party, kind of moving through some kind of dungeon, some kind of thing. So this is the painting I'm working on for that. Obviously in the direction more of like a molten area, and I want it to be a story that you can't quite figure out right off the bat, like what's going on. You know, this little adventuring party with, and you could actually look at each one of these guys and maybe even make up a story on your own for each one of them. You've got this, you know, the leader of this group over here. I don't want to zoom in too much because it kind of ruins the overall aesthetic. But the leader is kind of like stomping around like he's so tough or she's so tough. I can't tell what's going on there. You've got like the pack mule, big brutish guy, and he or she's carrying like a bag full of all the gear that they find and maybe they want to sell later. I don't know. There's a character behind them that has like the big sword and is being followed by like some kind of bird or a little dragon or whatever. Thanks, Tony. So, I wanted to be able to look at this. What is this little tiny thing holding the hand of the very backward? Who's the one in the back? Is it like a bard? Is that like, being dragged along by a courageous halfling? I don't know. Just that portion of it is enough to kind of get me excited to paint the whole thing. But then whatever this monolithic, monstrous thing is, the background, it's like the idea that that's tied down by something, maybe being held there for punitive reasons or whatever. So that's the sneak preview for the artwork for that. Now I lost what page was I working on? There we go. Starting to get hungry. It's tough to remember sometimes when I sit down that I should eat, which sounds stupid, but when you get kind of interested in what you're doing overly much, it can be easy to forget. I feel like when she finally finishes connecting this swing, that whatever gets hit on the head will be pretty much done. Yeah. Alright, but I don't hate that, so I've moved that one down the field a little bit more. Let's work on Princess a touch here. Now, the hairline just keeps messing with me on her design. I've kind of drawn her a million ways over the past 2 years, thinking about how I want to craft her character design. And I've pretty much landed on this, with the dual kind of buns in her hair, because I like the way it makes her silhouette look. Even when she's a little girl, you can see her here and here. Her character has the hairstyle, sets her apart from her friends. Right here. Yeah, you can just tell at a glance. Even in this silhouette, this crazy little silhouette I'm working on, it's her stepping down off the throne, I'm sticking with it. I figured I've been drawing it for a year. Who's Pro Game Fixers? Thanks for stopping by. Hey to you. Now watch, to be somebody from the con. Were you just watching? Are you from the Cheyenne con? If I can get through this upper part of this today with just these kind of dark pencils, I'll feel pretty confident to move on to the inks. But honestly, I'll probably just move on to another one of these panels to try and nail down some of my pencils a little bit better. I keep forgetting which page I'm on. I've got her wielding a different kind of weapon that I've kind of always been fascinated by. In her left hand, she's been holding a kind of, looks like a tuning fork. If I draw it real quick, it looks like this. It's called a sword breaker. I just like the idea of them. So if you're fighting with a sword in one hand and a sword breaker in the other, you can force a weapon out of somebody else's hand. Possibly snap it in half, but at least force it out of their hand. I just really like the idea of that. So if you're going to fight with a bladed weapon, that's what she's going to have. So they're typically made out of kind of sturdy metal, very thick, because they've got to be stronger than the blade they're trying to wrench out. And these long kind of glove things that I've got her wearing, they go almost all the way up to the shoulder. I drew those a while back on one of my pieces of concept art, and it was based on an actual mistake, like a line that I drew that was a mistake, and I kind of just went with it, and it's been a part of her look ever since. I'm just gonna just keep it that way. There's a, I don't know, who is it? Bob Ross? Oh yeah, Swordbreaker. I've seen it in Ancient Weaponry documentary. Is it one that I can see just for inspiration's sake? Is that one like that's on Netflix currently, or something I can get my hands on? Because I've been so I've always liked kind of melee weaponry, kind of ancient style stuff. And since it was sort of unique and different, I kind of held on to it. But if there's other things, and you say it's an ancient weapon documentary, I would watch that. Maybe get ideas for some of the other characters. Oh, what did I just do? Since this is just basically pencils at this stage, I'm not going to worry too much about that blade. Because I want to get the structure down for her body. In your ancient weapon documentary, have you ever seen anyone, I'm going to ask, and maybe I'm not original here, but this character has 2 shields, and I want her to kind of be able to, I don't know, club things with them, but mostly just protect with them. I don't know if that's a thing that's happened in other cultures. I started a cursory Google of it at one point, but for crying out loud, so much video game stuff comes up that you can't tell if there's an actual historical component to what you're trying to look up. There it is. It was in Coming in History TV channel. Oh, TV 18 channel in my country. What country? If you don't mind me asking. There's a famous YouTuber named Jazza that is art-based. His channel is art-based, and he does nothing but, drawing and challenges having to do with drawing and whatnot. He's from Australia, and he's hilarious. But his brother, from India. Nice. What time is it in India? I always like to ask that. For all I know, it's like straight across from me. But it's got to be pretty late, right? Or maybe early. At any rate, Jazza's brother is kind of a historical nut, and he does little, I think that's where I saw a Swordbreaker demonstration from him at one point. I never watch his stuff, but I guess they're like, well, no, I guess they wouldn't be twins, but they look very similar. At any rate, Jazza, Jazza, if you like art stuff, it's just so much fun to watch, and he does some pretty creative challenges. He's been on YouTube for so long that he has to kind of manufacture really difficult art challenges to do. 2,300 hours. Yeah, it's late. Yeah. Oh my. So you're into being up late, like I was just saying earlier, how I'm just this month trying to be a little bit more intentional about going to bed quite early and getting up quite early, just to see what it does to my life and it does to my creativity. And so far, I despise it. I don't like it. But the time that I would typically be spending on gaming being poured into this right now is yielding some pretty good results. I'll probably be done with this issue by the end of the month. Considering I have a full-time job, that is actually pretty encouraging. I've got these gliders that I'm putting in this comic because I want them to be able to drop these bombs during these combats. Early to bed, early to rise. Oh man, I hate that notion. Just saying that hurts my soul. But you're right, there is some wisdom to it. I always, when growing up, the only time I'd wake up early is when I had to on the farm, or when I got to go fishing. Because there's some kind of wisdom to getting up early and getting things done. But at the very least, I think fishing requires it for, I don't even know why. I always got up early. Get out there when the weather's still decent, cool during the day. Get the boat in the water, stake out your spot before anybody else gets there. My youngest and I have been fishing the past few years now together, and it's been pretty great. He consistently outfishes me, consistently. And I'm going to try not to be angry at him. So this is like these gliders with like these bones and membranes and whatnot, and there's going to be a person underneath it. I'm not drawing the person in really because they're going to be this big on the page, but I'm going to have them cart around these massive clay pots with fire coming out of them that they'll go ahead and drop on the battlefield. I'm going to put like a little indication of a dragon here or there flying through the air, getting knocked out of the air. Alright, I feel like we're getting there. This is one of the blimps or dirigible. Earlier in the comic, that's how Princess signals that the battle is supposed to commence, because it's a timing issue. She cuts a rope and lets this blimp go up. And it's kind of like a signal fire back in the days where you'd light one and another one in the distance would light and another one in the distance would light. This is going to be like blimps, letting them off, and then another one will be let off and let off, so it's a signal to begin the assault. So that's just like a minor storytelling thing. I didn't really need to get into that as far as like explaining it in the narrative at all, but I just thought it was a cool visual. This kind of background stuff, I'm going to be very shape-oriented. I'm just going to fill it with one tone. Your name is Pro Game Fixers, and you're from India. Do you really fix games, or like console games, I imagine? Or are you into coding? Or just fixing in another context means something else? I just saw Jazz's Only Audio challenge yesterday. Oh! Dude, Jazz's Only Audio. I haven't seen that yet, but doesn't he take like Bob Ross talking and painting, but he cuts out all the video and he tries to follow all of Bob Ross's prompts and directions without actually seeing? I think I got the gist of it, but I haven't seen it yet. He's fairly famous. Sounds like I'd probably go mad. I think I could follow along with Bob Ross because I've done a decent amount of traditional painting in my day, and I kind of grew up watching the guy. But I don't know if I could do it just with him talking about it without being able to see what he's actually doing, especially being a decently visual person. There is an extremely expensive kind of marker that artists like to use called a Copic marker. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're illustration markers that lay down beautiful color and kind of blend one color into another. They're literally called illustration markers. At any rate, at one point, one of Jazz's challenges for himself was to see if he could use Copic to create an entire illustration, but not the pen themselves, but the refill bit that goes inside the pen. It was obnoxious because it probably cost hundreds of dollars to do, because a refill is meant to fill up so many pens. And I wouldn't say it was unsuccessful, but it wasn't super pretty. Hundreds of dollars. Did pretty great with only audio. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to watch that. Audio only. He's a mad lad. Alright, I don't like what I did there. I feel like that's usable. That's usable as far as structure to go on and ink that later. What am I missing here? Oh, I got some littler panels. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so this foot and this shield kind of overlaps a little bit more visually until I can actually get it dialed in just right, so I can look at it without it bothering me. So now that foot and that shield kind of come over it. I want everything to be related to combat in this. Just there's probably not going to be any real words going on. No, I think that'll do. I'm going to go ahead and merge those layers and turn them semi-transparent. And I'll use that as a sketch. Let's do this one. It's a big silhouette. Actually, I don't hate what's going on here already. I think that one's probably pretty much ready to ink, in my estimation, since it's mostly going to be silhouettes. She's like stabbing upward with her blade, maybe through the face of that thing. This is her being pretty pumped up and yelling, like, feeling like this is working out for her combat-wise. At one point I had her head turned a different way and I hated it. Ugh. So I think this will work. Collapse those. Turn down the opacity. Let's ink it. Let me see if I can lay down some decent inks. There's a dragon falling out of the sky over here. It all helps if you don't use actual white ink. So maybe some glider took that dragon and he's falling out of the sky, and there's another dragon falling out of the sky, kind of like neck, like rocks. I just came up with a name to start a gaming channel 2 years ago, but I left uploading videos because of studies. What are you studying? I mean, it's probably a great reason to stop doing this kind of thing, is to study. Especially if you're studying something you like. Because it can take a lot of time. I've actually got some videos ready to upload to continue the audiobook that I'm recording. I just haven't done it yet because I want to kind of save them for after this month is over. My experiment. Yeah, okay. I had to think for a second. No, I hate that. What did you do? This is a little better. Sometimes when you make a hand holding something, you draw the hand and then you draw the thing that it's holding and you realize it's about as big around as this when you really need it to be holding something like this big around. And I've got to kind of reconcile that because right now I really don't like the pose of her hand. It feels like she's holding a pencil when really she's holding the hilt of a sword. So that separates her fingers a little bit more. Oh, I think I changed how her hilt looked. Or maybe I didn't. No, that's about right. I have to reference all the other stuff I've drawn from her sword to make sure I'm getting it all the same. That's about right. Okay. Nobody panic. Alright, my watch has told me it's time. It's that time. You guys, thanks for coming, stopping by. It has been a lot of fun. Hopefully, India treats you well.